So, you've got a quest, and now you're looking for something to play on it. Well, if you like fighting games, I've got one for you. This is Swordsman. It's often referred to as the most realistic fighting game available, and to an extent I might agree with that. The people move realistically, they fight very defensively, like they don't want to get hit. I'll cover the fighting mechanics in just a moment, but first let me show you this mode. This is the arena. In the arena you fight a series of enemies that are totally random. They have different weapons, fighting styles, and your goal is to defeat them all to earn points that you can spend on weapons and armor and skills. As soon as you defeat one opponent, more will appear. Here it's given me 2 to face off against, and I'm going to go after the easy guy first. When you're not fighting, you go back to a place that I don't have a name for, so I'm just going to call it the hub. The hub is where you can select how you're going to play the game, and where you can spend the money and the points that you gain on weapons and armor. This is the blacksmith, and he provides you weapons you can buy. You can see here I've already purchased most of them. You can select different ones. At the beginning you can only get the cheap ones, and it gives you a very large arsenal to choose from. This is the armor smith, and he provides you with the different armors that you can buy in the game, which are shown on this little mannequin here. You've got light armor, medium armor, knight armor. Don't ask, I'll explain this later. As you fight, you gain skill points, which you can accumulate and come here to spend with the skill master. The skill master lets you level up some of your stats like strength, which decides what kind of weapons you can use, vitality, how much health you've got, agility is how fast you move in different types of armor, and mastery gives you critical hit chances. These others are more complicated, and I'll go back into them in a moment. The hub also has an archery range. The archery range lets you practice with the bow and arrows that come with the game. Tells you how bad you are. I'm pretty bad because I never use these. The game has recurve bows, longbows, and crossbows. Crossbows, like the real thing, are much more powerful, and they also take longer to set up. They're easier to aim. The training grounds is full of training equipment that supposedly will make you better at playing the game. Let me show you this one. It has a slicing trainer which is timed and scores you off of how precise you are with your cuts. It's got a punching bag to score you on hand-to-hand combat. It has an archery range that's a little bit more fun than the other one. This should supposedly make you better at working with the bows and arrows. This is almost a game of its own. This is the mode selection screen. You saw the arena at the beginning of this video. In this mode you can choose how many waves of enemies you fight, how hard those enemies are, where you fight them. You saw the Gobi Desert at the beginning. Let's take a look at another location. Let's do the Great Hall. So when you fight in the arena, you face off against wave after wave of enemies. However many you told it you wanted to fight, whatever difficulty level you had set. Some enemies are more heavily armored than others. It can be harder to injure them or hurt them. They fight very defensively. They move quickly, but they don't move inhumanly quickly. Ow! They give you a nice Homer Simpson. Ow! You usually can't just stab through their armor. They'll kick, they'll punch, they'll hit you with a sword. Sometimes they have ranged weapons. Go ahead, do it. You know you want to. Come on. Come on, do it. Which you can deal with very effectively. Notice how it slows down when I parry blows. That's a skill that you can develop. I'll show that to you in just a moment too. When you get hurt, the screen goes darker, and if you stay out of combat for just a moment, the screen slowly brightens. That's your health indicator. Sometimes you don't completely drop them and you have to do a mercy kill. I actually hate that part of the game. As you can see, this gentleman has more armor than the others, which makes him just a little bit harder to injure. Sometimes they wear helmets, sometimes they don't. When you're facing off against two opponents, start with the weaker one. It makes it easier to take out the more heavily armored opponent. And then when you're done, you collect your reward and either do it again or go back to the main menu. You've also got Horde mode, which lets you face off against an ever-increasing number of zombies. In Horde mode, you face off against an ever-increasing number of zombies. Each wave, they move faster and there's more of them. They're not very difficult, though if they touch you, they hurt you quite badly. This is probably my least favorite mode, but if you're into zombies, it does exist. And it does get more difficult at higher levels. I'm just not going to play through long enough to get up to like wave 20 or 30 where it starts to get really hectic. Hi! Here we get to the meat of the game. This is campaign mode where you can fight off against different armies to work your way up to a final boss. Each one is a sequence of fights, a lot like the arena, except all more themed, and each fight leads up to a boss. This is Bjorn. Bosses are much more difficult than other opponents. They have a lot more health, they're much stronger, when they hit you it hurts a lot more. And they all have a special weapon that you can try to win from them. This well-dressed gentleman is Brownbeard. Batu, the Executioner, with his mace, and his exposed legs. I can't remember his name. He's a samurai guy, and he's got the poisoned sword, which is always a nice thing to have. When you're facing off against them, they always have an assistant with them. It's often a good idea to take out the assistant just to make your own life a little bit easier, but they'll always be replaced fairly quickly. It takes a lot of hits to take all of these bosses down. Baltok, the Disgraced, with the really long sword. Bosses do tend to telegraph their moves, which makes them a little bit easier to block than others sometimes, which is important because when they hit you, it hurts. Back off. I beat your boss already. Back off. After you've beaten all 5 of the regular bosses, you get to fight the final boss, Jotun.
I will break you.
Yeah, he looks like he could. Jotun is huge. There's also 2 additional bosses outside of campaign mode. This is Hell, who teleports. And finally, there's the newest boss, Klaus. This is an about video, not a tutorial, so I skipped most of these earlier, but let me go and show you real quick. Greed decides how much gold you get each time you do a fight. Intelligence defines how many skill points you get for each fight. Telekinesis is how far away you can grab things from. Chronokinesis was that thing you saw where everything slowed down when I blocked a blow. Taekwondo is your cooldown for kicks. And stereokinesis decides how many times you have to hit somebody with a special weapon before that weapon charges up. Ooh, I should show you that too. I also promised to show you more about game mechanics, so let's go to the sandbox for that. The sandbox is just like the arena, except it's more for playing around and experimentation. It has a menu that lets you choose what weapon you'd like to spawn, that's the claymore, and enemies. Let's spawn a trio of knights. 3 is the most it can support. It also has another feature. You can slow time so I can show you how this actually works. I'm going to move slowly to give them time to respond to me, but I want to show you their blocking methods. His shield moves to try to block my sword. I'm going to block his sword. And I'm going to make a swing towards him to see if he picks it up. Block. Leverage is a thing too. If you block it near the base, you have considerably more power, and you can even hit them with their own sword. Here's a bowman in action. He slowly taking his aim. He's about to shoot me with his bow. Let's see if I can stop it. Hey, I think that worked. They will try to parry your blows unless they're engaged already. That's a kick, which can knock you back. Let him kick me. See, that knocked me back and it would stun me just a little bit. Hitting them on armor has relatively little effect. But see how his arms don't have armor? Get him in the elbow. Cutting off his head is difficult because of the armor he's got. It's difficult for me to even injure him. Can I grab it? Oh, I can grab him. Oh, he kicked me. Here he is back at full speed. One thing they're weak to is stabs. That's probably just like in real life. Having been in zero real sword fights myself, I couldn't really tell you. To survive, you effectively have to try to not get hit. Just like every other game, you can do that by blocking blows, staying out of their range. One weakness all the armor in this game has, the one spot that's not really protected, is the crotch. No matter how much armor they've got, they're always susceptible to a good crotch stab. Here, let me slow it back down again. Alright, I'll move in for a swing. And he did not block that very effectively. I'm going to swing from this side, and boom, he blocked. Swing from this side, and he blocks. Come in for a stab, a low stab. Let's see what he does there. They're not as effective at blocking low swings. Leverage is the thing. The lower on the blade you hit, the more control you have. The further out, the less force you've got, but the more range you've got. Just like in real life, leverage is important. If you want to block a heavy sword, you need to hit low on the shaft. This is fundamentally a sword fighting game. There's other weapons, but the entire game is built around swords, hence the name Swordsman. Unarmed combat's very rare in this game, but in the sandbox it's easy to get by simply removing all the weapons. And of course, being in armor, my blows aren't as effective as they might be against another type of enemy. Here, let me spawn another type of enemy. Clear enemies. Choose an enemy. Let's go up against pirates. Now I've spawned 3 pirates, and I'm going to clear all weapons. Now they're all unarmed. First customer. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage. And really, the mechanics don't seem to support this very well. They don't react too much. I think I just knocked him out. There's no way that killed him. Next. Wow. Hello, Captain. Oh, I like this. It's like a boxing game. Except they don't react much to belly shots. Okay, enough of that. So, that's Swordsman. It's not my favorite arena combat game, but it's one of my favorites. Hopefully you'll like it too. Give it a try.